China is one of the dominant countries when it comes to global trade, and one of the ways they've been able to achieve this status is by using currency manipulation. And that works like this. We know that most exchange rates around the world are floating exchange rates. That means the value of the currency relative to another is set by the forces of supply and demand. Now, the Chinese currency, the renminbi, works a bit differently. The Chinese use what's called a managed exchange rate. What they aim to do is to keep the value of the renminbi undervalued compared to other global currencies. And the incentive for doing this is trade, because by having an undervalued currency, your exports, the goods that you sell to other countries, are effectively cheaper to those countries. And that's because the foreign currency is more valuable and can purchase more of your goods and services. And this has facilitated China having double-digit growth and taking up a place as one of the dominant trading nations. So to do this, what the Chinese central bank do is they impose two limits. So they impose an upper limit and a lower limit. And they are basically happy to allow the currency to fluctuate anywhere between these bands because they've set up these limits in order to get that positive effect to trade and to Chinese growth. But what happens if we go above or below these limits? Well, in all honesty, the actual problem for China is mainly going above the limit because the demand for their exports is so high that that is putting demand pressure on the currency and pulling it up. So that should pull the value up and cause an appreciation. We know the Chinese government don't want that because they want their currency to be undervalued. There were some instances during the start of COVID where demand really dropped and they did have to intervene to solve this lower limit, but that's a lot rarer and was only really a short-term thing. So let's say, for example, we do see a massive increase in demand for Chinese goods, which causes an appreciation. What that would do is drive demand for the renminbi up like this to demand 2. Now we see here this would value the currency at above the upper limit. So whereas 1 ren bought you 15 cents, it now buys you 19 cents. And the Chinese central bank don't like this because this means that their exports will be more expensive. Now here's the clever part. What the Chinese central bank do is they draw on their reserve of foreign currencies. So what they would do is they would take renminbi that they have in reserve and they would start selling them on the free market for dollars. That will cause an increase in the supply of the renminbi. And as we know, the more supply of something, the less valuable it becomes. And this here causes a depreciation. So the value of the ren to the dollar depreciates from 0.19 cents to 17 cents. And this has allowed them to maintain this target area and thus gain an advantage in trade. Now, of course, this is not at all controversial and no one has any problems with this whatsoever.
China.
But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think this is unfair? Do you think China should be penalized for using this practice? Or do you think when it comes to world trade, it's all fair game? If you enjoyed the video, then give it a like and follow for more. And consider supporting me on Patreon if you want to see some more of these great memes. Until next time, bye-bye.